1427, 800-761-1427.
ESPN Blacksburg is W226AT Christiansburg, WPIN AM Dublin, and W246CR Christiansburg.
It's The Drive, Sports Center at the top of the hour. Rick Barnes, who restructured the Tennessee basketball program and took the Vols to a number one ranking in the polls this season, is wrestling with the decision to remain at Tennessee or accept a lucrative offer to be UCLA's next coach, sources tell ESPN. Wofford's Mike Young has been hired as the men's basketball coach at Virginia Tech, the school announced Sunday. Young, a Virginia native, has been at Wofford in some capacity since 1989. He spent 13 seasons as an assistant coach for the Terriers, then was promoted to head coach in 2002 after Rich Johnson was promoted from head coach to athletic director. He led Wofford to 5 NCAA tournaments in his 17 seasons in the house. Wofford went undefeated in the Southern Conference this season, finishing with a record of 30-5 overall. The Terriers earned a 7th seed in the NCAA tournament and beat Seton Hall in the first round. Virginia Tech coaching guard Gil Alexander Walker says he will enter the NBA draft foregoing his final 2 years of college eligibility. Alexander Walker announced his decision on social media on Sunday night and said he would hire an agent. Walker, who averaged 16.2 points per game, 4.1 rebounds, and 4 assists per game this season for the Hokies. Though Duke held in 9 points on 3 of 10 shooting, the Blue Devils' 75-73 win in the Sweet 16. ESPN ranks Alexander Walker as the number 22 player overall and the number 6 shooting guard in this year's draft. He was recently selected to go number 21 in the recent mock draft on March 19th. For your ESPN Sports Center, I'm Trey Lyle.
It's time now for The Drive.
Alrighty then.
On ESPN Blacksburg, 93.1, 97.1, and live on the web at ESPNBlacksburg.com.
It's The Drive on your local radio station. We are ESPN Blacksburg, and a good Monday afternoon to all of you. My name is Paul Van Wagner. Trey Lyle is in the other studio, taking your calls at 866-961-1430, 866-961-1430. You can also text us. The number is exactly the same. It is 866-961-1430. So many things to get to today.
Really? Is this really anything that's happened this weekend?
We have a full slate today on the show, guest-wise.
We do.
It is going to be.
We're kicking it off 4:00 with a heavy hitter, man.
I know. We're not messing around this week. We're bringing you. So here's the deal. We've only got 3 days to do shows this week.
I'm on 2 of them.
That's it. And so Thursday we'll have the Frozen 4 coming your way. That starts at around 4:30. On Friday, I'm on vacation, so let's kick this show off in style.
Keep my hands to myself. No matter how hard I'm trying to.
Scott Nason.
I won't fall to myself.
Scott Nason. Scott.
I love Scott. Like a love song, baby. When you're ready, come and get
Scott Nason. Scott Nason. Scott Nason. Scott Nason.
Absolutely, let's go.
Scott Nason joining us today. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing wonderful, Paul. I appreciate you having me on. The first guest of the week. I feel honored, so I'm ready to go. I hope I can live up to that hype that you just gave me.
The good news is we got nowhere to go but down from here, my friend. So let's bring our A game out here on this one.
Hey, Paul.
Yes, sir, Trey.
You know something I noticed?
What's
I
that?
haven't been on when Scott's been on in a while because he goes on Thursdays, and I'm not here on
Thursday. Yeah.
So I just want to say, Scotty, I've missed you.
You can ask your
I've missed you too, Trey.
You can ask your questions of Scott during the course of the interview today, Trey, too, if you'd like.
I do ask some great questions.
That is true.
I got one prep for Chris Arvin. I'm going to tease it.
All right.
Paul knows the question.
I like it. I'm all good with that. So, Scott, it is the most wonderful time of the year. We've got National Championship tonight. We've got WrestleMania yesterday. We've got the NHL playoffs starting today. The NBA playoffs starting later this week.
Next week, I think.
Is it next week?
I think it might kick off Sunday.
You might be right.
Pretty sure, because I think final games are Thursday. Last game is Thursday. It might be because I think they give them a week.
Saturday playoffs begin. Yep, you're right. And of course, can't forget the Masters start on Thursday.
Woo. Busy week.
This might be the best week of the year.
It's one of the best times of the year. For
No
sports
doubt
fans.
about that. Scott, what's your number one? What are you looking at this week?
Well, I really look at the NHL playoffs, Paul, because I think it's my favorite beginning of the playoff in any sport. I think the first couple rounds in the NHL sometimes has the best hockey. It's the most exciting. You don't see a lot of 4-0, 4-1 series like you do maybe in the NBA and other sports. And I really get excited for the first round of the NHL playoffs. Of course, the Masters, always great to watch that. NCAA Frozen Four, as you mentioned, just so much going on. Wrestlemania last night, championship game tonight, so I can't even keep up with everything.
So last year's Stanley Cup champions, of course, a lot of people around this area are partial to the Washington Capitals,
Go
including
Caps.
our own Trey Lyle. Looking to be the first to become back-to-back Stanley Cup champions since the Penguins did it in 16 and 17.
Recently.
Yeah.
They were the champs before
That's
the Caps.
true.
So
That is true.
It's not like it's been that long ago.
I mean, it sounds better when I say it that way, though.
It pains me to say it. Give Penguins any sort of credit.
So, Tampa Bay, President's Cup champions, we all know that doesn't necessarily equate to a Stanley Cup. Who you got? I guess first question for you, Scott, in the NHL playoffs, who you got?
Well, I look at it this way. I think the East has the better teams, and I think the West is more unpredictable as far as who is going to get to the Stanley Cup. Looking at this Tampa team, I know it's been a while since a President's Trophy team has been to the Stanley Cup final. The last one to win it, I should say, was Chicago back in 12-13. But, boy, how do you not see this team advancing far into the playoffs? I mean, you look at what Kucherov has done, 128 points.
Right.
I mean, they don't have any weaknesses. They won more games than anybody since the 95-96 Red Wings, who didn't win the Stanley Cup, I might add.
Yep.
There's a lot of heavy hitters in the East. You mentioned Washington. They're back. They're going to be tough, and they know how to win now. And Boston's another team I'm looking at. They're tough. They play Toronto again. They're going to beat Toronto again. I like Tampa coming out of the East. I just think that they're destined for the Cup. The West, I have no idea. Calgary's the top seed. I think you can see 5 or 6 teams maybe making the final. I'm going to pick Winnipeg. I don't know how many people are picking Winnipeg. They just finished out of first. They're going to have a tough series against St. Louis in the first round, but I like how that team's built, and so I like Tampa and Winnipeg, with Tampa taking the Stanley Cup. I'm going chalk on this one.
Wow.
Ooh, chalk. I have something different.
Wow. Well, okay, hold on. What intrigues me, and I think this one, Trey, as a fan of the Capitals, you have to be looking ahead to, and I think a lot of hockey fans are. Caps Pens
Again.
to get to the Stanley Cup semifinals,
To get to
this time.
the Eastern Conference
The
Finals.
Eastern Conference Finals. Yes, Stanley Cup Finals. Yeah.
Just that's what it's called, the Conference Finals.
Thank you, Trey.
So.
Scott, what is your thought on that?
Again, the NHL needs to look at making their playoff system a little bit different. I don't like how it's set up because you seem to have the same matchups, and a lot of times you have the best matchups in the first couple of rounds. It shouldn't be that way. So you're going to see Washington and Pittsburgh. You can't count out Carolina. They haven't been in the playoffs in 10 years, but I think Washington takes care of them. I'm not so sure Pittsburgh gets by the Islanders. The Islanders actually finished with a better record. A team that overachieved this year. Pittsburgh, I don't know if they're as good as past seasons. I wouldn't count out the Islanders in that one.
Wow.
Right. Here's a hypothetical scenario, Scott, because it could happen, but I don't think it will. We got John Tavares and the Toronto Maple Leafs facing the New York Islanders for a trip to the Stanley Cup. How would the storyline is starting to write itself?
Ooh.
That would be very interesting, and hopefully Tavares can keep those wacky fans away from the penalty box there in Long Island. We saw a viral video of some knucklehead that looked like an idiot yelling at Tavares where I don't even know what he was doing. But that could be very interesting. I think Toronto has a lot of problems on the defensive core, and I think Boston exploits that. And, of course, you got the mental game going for the Leafs against the Bruins. They haven't beaten them in a while in the playoffs, and I just don't think it'll happen. But, hey, it would be fun. It would be interesting. It would be very surprising to have Toronto and the Islanders, and what a storyline that would be.
Yep. Good news for the Caps Hurricanes. That's kind of a local battle. You got the two closest teams, for us at least, because you got Riley and then DC. So.
Yeah, and I think Carolina's just happy to be there. I mean, no offense to them, but I don't see the Capitals dropping this series. This is a team now that has that monkey off their back as far as the best team never to win the Stanley Cup, and now they're the defending champs, so they're obviously going to have a target on their back. But I just don't see Carolina the team to knock off Washington. Pittsburgh or the Islanders maybe, but I see Washington and Tampa in the East Final. It just seems like those are the two best teams, and I think those are the teams that'll be there.
Scott, two teams you mentioned, or I see, and then you didn't mention about the West, and I think could set up to be a beautiful Western Conference Finals. I was actually in Vegas last year during their playoff run, so the Vegas Golden Knights, obviously, year 2, they're back in the playoffs. They make a couple additions during the season. Could they make the run back to the Stanley Cup Final? And then, of course, the team that was representing the West 2 years ago, the Nashville Predators. I think they're top of the bottom of the bracket if you look on the West, and I think that could set up nicely for a beautiful Western Conference Finals in two great towns. I would love just to follow that city, or be a media member covering that series, because you're going from Nashville to Vegas, and that's got to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, you look at this Vegas team, I think a lot of people thought they would have a big drop-off this season, and they did not. They make the playoffs. They take on a San Jose team that had 101 points, and they kind of struggled towards the end of the season. So I actually like Vegas in that matchup against San Jose. And then, like you mentioned, Nashville, Winnipeg, Calgary, Vegas. I mean, I wouldn't even put it past some of these other teams possibly to advance to the Western Finals. I mean, that Colorado-Calgary first-round series intrigues me a lot. Colorado was a team I really thought was going to be a little better during the regular season. They started off hot. They cooled off, but they ended up hot and getting that wild card spot. Taking on a Calgary team that really didn't have a lot of adversity this year. They had a great regular season, 107 points. So I think the West is a crapshoot. I think there are 5 or 6 teams that can win it, including the ones you just mentioned.
Paul, who do you got?
I got Winnipeg. Oh, Paul, sorry.
You got Winnipeg in the West, right?
Yeah, I said Paul. Yeah, he said that earlier.
I go back to my last year's motto. No Canadians, no Californians, no Pittsburgh. Other than that,
So you're down to Dallas, Nashville, St. Louis,
Colorado,
and Vegas.
Vegas, and then in the East, Tampa. I'll take Columbus, even Boston.
That's every
the
team
Caps.
but Toronto.
Yeah, the Islanders.
So you're just going to take everyone but
Toronto and Pittsburgh. I have teams I don't like, so I'm
taking. Who
you got? Who you got?
I got Nashville, Washington, and the fan in me's. But it's just kind of like a gut feeling where it's like, in the words of Ric Flair, in order to beat the man, you got to beat the man. And I just, you know what? I love Ovi enough. Give me the Cavs to go back to back. But even though it's tough, I think Nashville. I think Nashville is going to come out of the West, and I think if they get there, I think they have a really good shot to win it all.
Scotty, Texter writes in, Tom actually wants to know, where are my Montreal Canadiens? What's going on here?
They suck.
They're the last Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup, Paul, all the way back in 1993.
Before the internet.
I was not alive
then.
And
a lot of hair, so I think I might be running into Tom in the near future. I'll have to ask him that one personally.
Before the internet. That's the thing.
I was not alive then. I was negative 4 years old.
Yeah. That's the funny thing, Scott. Like, Trey brings up a great point. There is an entire generation of sports fans that don't remember a Canadian team winning the Stanley Cup.
Graduating college right now.
Yes.
Wait, there's some in the workforce because it's 4 years older than me.
Yes. That's insane.
There's a majority. If you really think about it, like every young player is wasn't alive then.
You think about that.
Oh, yeah. And they have 3 shots in Calgary, Winnipeg, and Toronto. So it is possible. Maybe not probable, but it is possible. So it'll give Canada something to root for.
Is Winnipeg the team then, because you have them coming out of the West, is Winnipeg the team you think out of the Canadians that has the best chance to actually win a Stanley Cup this year?
I really do, because I think they've been in the playoffs. They have playoff experience. Again, Calgary's best record in the West, but I just don't know if they've had a lot of experience in the playoffs. In Toronto, coming out of that East, they did have to beat Boston, Tampa, and Washington to get to the Cup. I don't see that happening.
Switching gears here, last night, the granddaddy of them all, Wrestlemania, came your way.
It was
Scott
fun.
Nason. Scott Nason, what did you think?
7.5 hours later, I really enjoyed it. I mean, it had a lot. I mean, the faces obviously did well. I think WWE scripted it well. There were some very good matches. I mean, a couple so-so matches, which you're always going to have on a 7.5-hour show. But I think overall it was great. It sets up for a very interesting April. Of course, the Raw after WrestleMania is always exciting. Mm-hmm. Then you have the move to a new network and things. So I think the WWE got it right.
Paul, I mean, Scott, I'm going to say this. So you think you're untouchable? Word life, it's the basic thugonomics. Word life, it's the basic thugonomics. Word life. What did you think of didn't it feel like 2005 for about like 30 minutes at WrestleMania because you had the doctor of thugonomics, John Cena, come out with his rap skills on Elias, and then we had it's like WrestleMania 21 all over again, just the reverse. Batista versus Triple H.
It was awesome. I mean, I wish they would do more with Cena like that. It was a surprise, and I'm a big Elias fan, so I thought those two meshed well. But yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, from top to bottom, I thought it was a great show. Obviously, there was a little hiccup in the main event, being that the pin, was it a pin? Was it scripted? Who knows? But you know what? The right people, I think, won the right matches. And overall, again, the WWE did a great job. They finally listened to the fans, which is sometimes not always what they do.
Who you got tonight, Scott?
Oh, boy, you know, Texas Tech.
Guns up, baby! Guns up!
Michigan State and Michigan, I might add.
Guns up!
I think the first team to 50, Paul, wins.
Woo!
I picked Virginia in my bracket. I'm going to have to pick Virginia. I know it's not going to make you happy, but I got to go with them.
All right.
It's sad to say, Scott. I can't believe I'm not rooting for this decision, but I agree with you.
Oh,
I think
guns up.
Here's the thing. Virginia has been, and if you look at it just like, it's on facts. They've been the best team in college basketball the last 2 years. Virginia Tech lost 9 games this season. You would have to go back 3 seasons in order for UVA to get to 9 losses. That's just ridiculous. And it would be the perfect story. You go from losing to the 16th seed to the national championship. I hate I'm saying this. I'm just going to follow up with go Texas Tech. I hope I'm wrong. Patrick Mahomes is my spirit animal tonight. Red Raiders all the way. But UVA is going to win.
Guns up!
Guns up!
Scott Nason, where can our listeners get more great stuff from you?
Tonight we'll have a brand new edition of our sports show, The Game, which will talk about all those topics and more. You can find it at thegamesportshow.com.
Travis is texting in, wants to know if you will be talking more Stanley Cup playoffs. He can't get enough hockey. He's looking for more. Can he be assured that you will have more Stanley Cup playoffs in your show today?
He can be assured because we have 4 colleagues that are on the show, a couple from Canada and a couple from the U.S., and we'll be talking all about the, or boot, if you will, the NHL playoffs.
Right on. All right, Scott Nason, I will holler at you later. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, take care. There you go. Scott Nason, we appreciate him joining us. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk another national championship. That game was awesome. It's next on The Drive.
ESPN Blacksburg, AM 810, FM 93.1, 97.1, and ESPNBlacksburg.com.